A millionaire took his daughter on a blind date, pretended to be poor, and everything changed after he sat at the wrong table. Before we begin the story, leave a comment and tell us what city you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The restaurant La Piazza was busier than William Parker expected for a Friday night. Fixing the dress of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, he took a deep breath and looked at the brightly lit entrance. "Promise you'll be my partner on this mission?" he asked, holding out his hand. Lily, her eyes full of curiosity, squeezed his hand firmly. "I promise, Daddy. It'll be fun." It was the first blind date William had agreed to since becoming a widower. The thought of opening up to someone new made him nervous, but his sister had insisted he try. At the very least, Lily would make sure the evening had some laughs. With a reservation at table 9, William walked into the dining room holding Lily's hand. But between checking the table numbers and answering Lily's constant requests for ice cream, he got confused and stopped at table 6. Sitting there was a young woman with brown hair resting on her shoulders and a boy about Lily's age. The woman, Sophia, had a tired look, like someone trying to stay cheerful through a tough day. Without hesitation, William smiled and pulled out a chair. "Hi, I'm William. I'm here for the blind date. Just to be clear, I'm pretty poor. I don't have much. Just an old car and a fridge that makes more noise than my knees, but I promise I have good intentions. And lots of love to give," he said, making Sophia smile in surprise. Lily added cheerfully, "It's true. Daddy is really poor. We live in a tiny little place, a really small apartment, and we always have cheese bread." Sophia froze, her fork still in the air, unsure how to react. She looked at her son, Max, who lit up and said, "Mom, you found me a new daddy. I like him." People nearby turned to look at the scene. Sophia turned red, confused about what was going on, while William, thinking the boy's reaction was part of the setup, smiled even wider. "So, do you want dessert first, or should we start with the main course?" William joked, trying to ease the awkward moment. Still a bit shocked, Sophia glanced around looking for an explanation, but there was nothing. Just her, Max, William, and Lily, sitting like a real family. Sure, let's see the menu," Sophia said softly, not brave enough to tell him she had no idea who he was. While Max and Lily started chatting excitedly about toys and cartoons, Sophia tried to make sense of it all. Who was this man, and why was he pretending to be poor? "So," William said, fixing his tie as if trying to impress her, "I'm a rideshare driver. We don't have many luxuries, but we've got lots of love." Sophia raised an eyebrow, suspicious. A rideshare driver? That man was wearing a perfectly tailored suit, and his watch probably cost more than her car. But his warmth, the way he spoke to Max and Lily like he'd known them for years, made her lower her guard, even though she didn't fully understand. "Do you live here in town?" Sophia asked, trying to make small talk. "Yes, in a pretty modest neighborhood," William answered, making it up on the spot. "It's small, but we're happy." Max, excited, whispered in his mother's ear, "Mom, he's nice. Can he be my daddy?" Sophia gave a nervous laugh. What was happening? It made no sense, but for the first time in a long while, Max looked truly happy. The waitress came to take their orders. William, without hesitation, asked for 2 kids' meals, one for each child, and a simple dish for himself. Sophia, still unsure how to explain the mix-up, ordered the same. During dinner, between bites and silly stories about crowded bus rides and instant noodles for dinner, Sophia found herself laughing. Really laughing. William had a way of turning any moment into something special, but deep down, she knew something didn't add up. As the evening went on, the kids became more relaxed. Max and Lily even started making plans to camp in the backyard of our new house, while Sophia and William shared a few knowing glances. When the waitress brought dessert, Lily sighed. "I hope we can go out for ice cream like this all the time, right, Daddy?" William smiled and gently messed up her hair. Sophia, however, knew she had to clear things up before it went too far. Finishing her last spoonful of chocolate mousse, she took a deep breath and said, "William, I think there's been a mistake." He widened his eyes. "I'm not here for a date. I just brought my son to dinner. I think you sat at the wrong table." Silence fell like a stone. William blinked a few times, trying to understand. He looked at the table number and finally saw it. 6. It wasn't table 9. His face turned red. "Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry," he stammered, getting up quickly. Lily looked at him, her eyes shining with sadness. Daddy, but I like them. Sophia, seeing the disappointment in the little girl's eyes and the confusion on William's face, did something she didn't expect herself to do. Would you like to stay? Have dinner with us, I mean it. William hesitated, but with Sophia's encouraging smile and the hopeful looks from the kids, he smiled. If you don't mind. I think Max would love that, Sophia said, and Max, excited, shouted, Yes, let's be a family. William helped Lily back into her chair, trying to hide how awkward he felt as he adjusted his tie. Sophia gave a shy smile, and Max was already pulling Lily into a lively debate about which superhero was the strongest. So, now that we know this wasn't exactly a blind date, Sophia joked, trying to ease the mood, how about we just pretend it's a dinner among friends? William smiled, grateful for her kindness. That sounds perfect. Friends, he said, raising his apple juice for a casual toast. Sophia clinked her glass with his and laughed. The kids were giggling, trading superhero cards that Max had in his pocket, while Sophia and William talked about light topics, favorite places to go, movies they liked, and meals they didn't know how to cook. To keep up the story, William stayed in character. I live in such a small apartment that if you open the fridge, the bathroom light comes on, he joked, making Sophia laugh out loud. She shook her head, amused. Is that even physically possible? If you're creative enough, it is, he replied with a wink. Sophia still felt something didn't add up. William's manners, his confident posture, the way he spoke didn't quite match the simple life he described. But there was something so genuine in his eyes, especially in how he treated Lily and Max, that her doubts started to fade. And you work as a rideshare driver? She asked, playing with her napkin. William swallowed hard. He had to keep the story going, at least for now. Yes, it's honest work. You don't get rich, but it's enough to be happy, he said with a half smile. I imagine it's tough sometimes, Sophia said, watching his expression. Some days are long, others are an adventure, William answered, trying to shift the focus. What about you? What do you do? Sophia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I'm an administrative assistant at a small accounting firm. Not glamorous, but it's steady. William tilted his head, interested. Steady is good. Especially when you have a little tornado like Max, she said, smiling at her son, who was now showing Lily how to make paper airplanes with napkins. William watched Max and Lily for a moment. The kids, though so different, had bonded instantly, naturally, like they'd been friends for years. You're amazing, he said without thinking. Raising a child on your own? That must be hard. Sophia blushed, surprised by his honesty. You do what you can, she said with a shrug. The waiter brought more juice for the kids and some dessert, apparently on the house thanks to the spontaneous entertainment the kids were providing. Max and Lily started arguing about which cartoon was the best, and soon decided to settle it with a race to the front of the restaurant. Be careful, Sophia called, but the kids were already running. She quickly stood up to go after them, but William gently held her arm. Let them go. Let's trust the floor is even. Sophia laughed and sat back down, watching the two kids running between tables, drawing smiles from the other diners. Have you always been this calm? Sophia asked, still smiling. Not at all, William admitted. But when you lose something really important in life, you realize you need to laugh a little more, even at the messes. Sophia looked at him, feeling a wave of empathy. She didn't ask what he had lost. She respected his space. But in her heart, she felt an unexpected connection. Things between them became a little more serious, more personal. Max and Lily came back out of breath, laughing and asking for more dessert. I think they've already decided we're all one big family, William said, winking at Sophia. She smiled, but this time there was a hint of sadness in her smile. They're just kids. They believe things can fall into place with a little magic. And maybe they can, William said, before realizing he might be getting ahead of himself. Dinner went on with more made-up stories. William talked about his battles to find lost coins in car seats, and Sophia shared the story of the day. Max tried to adopt a squirrel at the park. The kids laughed out loud, and so did the adults. As the clock neared 9, William realized it was time to end the evening. The kids were already yawning, and the energy from their little adventure was starting to fade. Can I ask you something? William said to Sophia as he pulled out his wallet to pay. Sure, she replied, curious. Your number. I'd like to plan another dinner, but next time without any table mix-ups. Sophia paused for a moment. She still wasn't sure about the whole story, but seeing Max grinning from ear to ear next to Lily softened her heart. All right, she said, pulling out her phone and typing in the number. William smiled like a teenager getting his first school note. They said goodbye at the restaurant door. Max and Lily hugged like old friends. Bye, new dad, Max shouted, making everyone nearby laugh. Embarrassed, Sophia grabbed Max's hand, but William just laughed. See you soon, Max. See you soon, Sophia. As they walked to the car, Lily looked up at her dad and said quietly, Daddy, I liked her. William smiled and squeezed his daughter's hand. Me too, sweetheart. The night breeze blew softly, carrying a feeling that in that unlikely mistake, something very right might just be starting. Saturday morning came with sunshine, and William woke up with a strange sense of excitement. The memory of the night before with Sophia and Max felt more like a sweet dream than something real. Lily, all excited, jumped on the bed, insisting they should call the new mommy and the new little brother. Easy now, sweetheart, William said, laughing as he tried to dodge her jumps. We've got to take things slow. We don't want to scare them. But it was too late. Lily was already holding the phone, with Sophia's number saved as new family. William took a deep breath and sent a casual message, suggesting they meet for a picnic at the city park. A simple, down-to-earth plan that matched the humble image he was still trying to maintain. Sophia replied a few minutes later, accepting the invitation. Max got just as excited as Lily, jumping around the room and asking if he could bring his soccer ball. A few hours later, they met under the shade of a big oak tree in the park. Sophia wore comfortable jeans and a light top. Without makeup, she looked even more beautiful, with a simple charm that left William enchanted. He spread the blanket on the ground while Lily and Max ran around in circles. Hope you like sandwiches, he said, pulling a few wrapped ones from the basket. Sandwiches are perfect, Sophia replied with a smile. They sat side by side, watching the kids run, kick the ball, and then race up the slide. So how was your day? William asked. Chasing Max. I think he runs on endless batteries, Sophia joked. I get it. Lily's just the same, he said. The conversation flowed easily. Sophia talked about her simple childhood, how she married young and ended up raising Max mostly on her own. William listened closely, admiring her strength. When Sophia asked about his life, William hesitated. Part of him wanted to tell everything, to confess he wasn't a rideshare driver and didn't live in a tiny apartment. But the other part was afraid the magic would disappear. I grew up nearby, he lied, looking out at the lake. Always wanted a simple life, you know? No luxury, no complications. Sophia nodded, seeming to believe him. Sometimes the simple life is the richest one. William smiled, but deep down, felt a little guilty. Lily and Max came running back, sweaty and hungry, asking for juice and more sandwiches. William handed everything out, feeling like he truly belonged in that happy little mess. After the meal, Max challenged William to a quick soccer match. If you win, you can marry my mom, the boy said seriously. Sophia's eyes went wide as she turned red with embarrassment. Max, William laughed as he stood up. All right, if I win, I'll at least want a rematch, deal? They ran, kicked the ball, rolled in the grass, and laughed so much that people around them started watching. Lily cheered for her dad, while Sophia, laughing herself, tried to keep some order in all the fun. When they finally lay down on the grass, catching their breath, Sophia looked at William with a different kind of sparkle in her eyes. There was something about that moment, the simplicity, the genuine laughter, that just felt right. You're good with kids, she said. Maybe because I'm still kind of a kid myself, he replied, making her laugh. The afternoon passed slowly, filled with games of tag, made-up stories, and a whole lot of playful chaos. Sophia and William took turns pushing Max and Lily on the swings, and for a little while, they looked like a real family. While the kids played on the slide, Sophia and William stepped away, walking slowly along the path by the lake. The silence between them felt easy, filled only with birdsong and distant laughter. Thank you for today, William said. I should be the one thanking you, Sophia replied. It's been a long time since I had this much fun. They stopped near a small wooden bridge, watching ducks lazily swim by. "Sophia," William began, wanting to say more, wanting to be honest. But just then, Lily and Max came running over, yelling about a duck that stole their sandwich. The truth got stuck in his throat. They laughed again, and the serious moment faded away. As the sun began to set, William offered to walk Sophia and Max to their car. When it was time to say goodbye, Max hugged William without hesitation, and Lily did the same with Sophia. "Will there be another date?" Max asked, hopeful. Sophia looked at William, her brown eyes lit up by the last bit of sunlight. "That depends. If your new friend calls," she said with a playful smile. Without missing a beat, William said, "I'll call. Tomorrow." Sophia smiled and waved, getting into the car with Max. William and Lily stood watching as the car drove off, both feeling that strange but comforting sense that something new and special was just beginning. "She's nice, Daddy," Lily said with a child's simple wisdom. William sighed, looking up at the sky turning orange. "She's amazing, sweetheart." But inside, doubt was growing. How much longer could he keep the lie going? And when the truth came out, would he still have a chance? Sunday morning came with a clear blue sky, and William decided it was time to take another step toward winning Sophia's heart. He planned something simple to keep up the image of a humble man, a trip to the zoo followed by a casual picnic. Early that day, he sent Sophia a message with the idea. She agreed happily, and by early afternoon, they were all gathered at the zoo entrance, backpacks on and excited smiles all around. Lily and Max ran ahead, thrilled about seeing tigers and elephants. Sophia walked beside William, looking more and more at ease around him. "You're good at picking outings," she said, watching Max and Lily jumping with joy. William smiled, trying to hide the growing weight of the lie inside him. "I've learned that the best memories don't cost much," he said, sticking to the story of a simple life. They spent the afternoon among animals, kids with melting ice cream, and silly photos in front of enclosures. Everything felt perfect. Until the end of the visit, when William slipped up, almost ruining his whole act. As they left the zoo, a fancy black car pulled up at the entrance. A uniformed driver stepped out quickly and opened the back door. Without thinking, William casually thanked the man and started walking toward the car with Lily. Sophia frowned, puzzled. "William, is that your car?" He froze halfway there, the color draining from his face. "Oh no, I sometimes work events like this as a driver." "Enough," he said quickly, walking back to her. "I was just admiring the car. Nice one, huh?" Sophia laughed, but her eyes were watching him closely. Something didn't add up. His clothes, the way he talked, even how he acted around people, it didn't match the life he described. Luckily, Max and Lily interrupted, arguing over who had seen more animals. Sophia let the suspicion go, at least for now. William let out a quiet sigh of relief, promising himself he'd be more careful. They said their goodbyes right there, agreeing to see each other again next week. During the week, Sophia couldn't stop thinking about William. There was something about him that felt real, honest, but there were little things that didn't quite fit. She chose not to mention anything to Max, who was already telling everyone in their building that William was his almost dad. On Friday, a work friend named Carla invited Sophia for coffee after work. Over a couple of cups, Sophia ended up quietly mentioning the nice driver she had met. "A driver?" Carla asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," Sophia said, laughing. "He's really a great guy." Carla paused for a moment. "What's his name?" "William Parker." Carla's eyes widened. "Sophia? Are you sure? William Parker? That name sounds familiar." Sophia shrugged. "Maybe you've ridden with him before. Could be just a coincidence." Curious, Carla pulled out her phone and started typing quickly. Just seconds later, she turned the screen toward Sophia. There was a photo of William at a business event, wearing a suit, surrounded by well-known businessmen. The caption was clear: "William Parker, CEO of one of the city's biggest real estate companies." Sophia felt her stomach twist. "Must be a different William Parker," she said, not sounding very sure. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. Saturday came, and it was Lily's birthday. William invited Sophia and Max to a small birthday party he had carefully planned to keep things low-key. He rented a small party room in a modest neighborhood and arranged for simple but charming decorations. Max and Lily were all smiles, running around with colorful hats and balloons. Sophia arrived with Max shortly after 3 in the afternoon, bringing a gift for Lily. William greeted them with a big smile, trying to hide his nervousness. The party was going great. There was cake, candy, children's games, and lots of joy. But not everything would go as William had hoped. In the middle of the kids' excitement, an elegant woman in designer clothes and high heels walked up to the main table. "William, what a surprise to see you here," she said, kissing him on both cheeks. Sophia watched from a distance, pressing her lips together. "Hi, Amanda," William replied, clearly uncomfortable. "I'm celebrating my daughter's birthday." "How sweet," she said, looking around. "You haven't changed a bit, no matter how much money you have." Sophia froze. The words echoed in her mind, "No matter how much money you have." Max tugged at her shirt, wanting to show her a painting he had made, but Sophia could barely focus. Her chest felt tight. She kept watching from afar, seeing other guests whisper and look at William with disguised admiration. Some of the mothers, dressed way too fancy for the occasion, spoke of him like he was some kind of celebrity. Sophia realized this wasn't just a slip. It wasn't a coincidence. William had been lying. Her heart was torn between anger over the lie and sadness for having believed in him. She called Max, who quietly protested, and led him to a corner. "Max, sweetheart, we need to go," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But Mommy, I want to stay, and my new daddy hasn't cut the cake yet," he said, his eyes shining with sadness. Sophia took a deep breath, fighting the urge to cry. "I know, honey, but we have something we need to do, okay?" Max, reluctantly, picked up his party hat and the gift he had brought for Lily. Before leaving, Sophia looked at William one last time. He was smiling at Lily as he fixed her party hat, unaware of the storm in Sophia's eyes. She turned away and walked out, feeling her heart grow heavier with every step. Outside, the chilly afternoon wind seemed to carry away all the hope she had been feeling. Inside the party room, William looked around, searching for Sophia. But she was already gone. And in that moment, without knowing exactly why, William felt like something truly important was about to fall apart. Sophia's absence lingered like a silent shadow over the party. William tried to hide his worry, playing with Lily, cutting the cake, handing out slices to the kids, and thanking people for their gifts. But his eyes kept scanning the room, looking for that shy smile he had hoped to see. Lily noticed her dad's unease. "Daddy, where's Aunt Sophia and Max?" she asked, her face covered in frosting. William knelt down to her level. "They had to leave, sweetheart. But I'm sure we'll see them again." He said the words, trying to believe them himself, but his chest ached. The party went on, but the joy seemed to have faded for him. Every laugh from the kids sounded distant. Every birthday cheer echoed like it came from another room. When the last guest left and the final balloons popped under the feet of tired children, William sat alone in one of the chairs, looking at the mess around him. Lily came over and sat beside him. "It was the best party ever," she said, resting her head on her arm. William smiled and kissed the top of her head. But deep down, all he could think about was the way Sophia had looked at him before she left. That expression of disappointment. Something was wrong, and he knew sooner or later he would have to face it. The next morning, William woke up determined. He needed to find Sophia. He needed to explain. Even though he was still trapped in the lie about his real life, he wanted her to know how important she was to him and to Lily. He tried calling. It went straight to voicemail. He sent messages. No reply. Meanwhile, Sophia sat in her small apartment on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone as if it were a strange object. Max played on the living room rug, completely unaware of his mother's inner struggle. "Mommy," he said, holding up a toy. "Are we going to see the new daddy today?" Sophia closed her eyes, feeling her heart tighten. "Not today, sweetheart." "But I like him," Max said, his voice starting to tremble. She pulled her son into her arms and hugged him tightly. "I know, my love, I know." Sophia didn't want Max to get even more attached to William, not when she knew there was a wall of lies between them. As much as part of her heart cried out to forgive and to try to understand, the other part, the part wounded by past disappointments, could not trust so easily. 2 days later, a friend of Sophia's, after hearing the story, sent her a link to an article on a local news website. There on the front page was William Parker, in a polished photo holding a giant golden key, a symbol of yet another real estate opening. The headline read, "William Parker expands his real estate empire with new luxury resort." Sophia read every word of the article with a sinking feeling in her stomach. It wasn't just a small lie. William was a multimillionaire, one of the wealthiest men in town. And she had been fooling herself, thinking she could build something real with him. Her heart ached, but Max, innocent and unaware, kept asking about the new daddy every single day. Determined to move forward, Sophia focused on her work and daily responsibilities. But no matter how hard she tried to stay busy, the memories of William's easy laugh, the way he looked at Lily, the kind way he spoke to Max, they all came back during every quiet moment. Then, on Friday night, a knock at the door caught her by surprise. When she opened it, there was a delivery man holding a huge bouquet of flowers. A simple card was tucked between them. "Let me explain, William." Sophia closed the door without taking the flowers. She didn't want more excuses. She wanted the truth, and she wasn't sure if William could give it. Meanwhile, across town, William sat in his private office, large, luxurious, and cold, feeling more miserable than he ever had in his life. The money, the buildings, the travels, none of it filled the emptiness growing inside him. All he wanted was a simple life, with Sophia, Max, and Lily. A real family. But now it seemed he had ruined everything. Lily appeared at the office door, clutching her teddy bear. "Daddy?" "Hey, sweetheart," he said, trying to smile. "Are you sad because you miss Aunt Sophia and Max?" William opened his arms and Lily ran into them. "I miss them very much," he said, hugging her tight. "But more than anything, I want to make things right." Lily rested her chin on his shoulder and said, with the simple wisdom only a child can have, "Then go and do it. If you tell the truth, it might work." William chuckled softly, amazed by his daughter's simple way of seeing things. Maybe there was still a chance. But he knew that winning Sophia back would take more than sending flowers. He would have to prove that, no matter the money, he was worthy of her trust and her love. Meanwhile, Sophia sat on her living room couch, gently running her fingers through Max's hair as he slept in her lap. She looked out the window into the quiet night and wondered, was there still hope, or was it better to protect her heart from another disappointment? The answers wouldn't come easily, and destiny still had more surprises in store for all of them. Saturday morning dawned cloudy, as if the sky itself shared Sophia's confusion. She woke up early, even before Max, and sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee in her hands, staring into the distance. The flowers William had sent still sat in a corner, untouched and starting to wilt. "Let's play a little game with those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments. Only those who read this far will get it. Now, let's get back to the story." Part of her wanted to ignore everything, move on, protect Max, and protect herself. But another part, the one that still remembered the way William smiled at them, how he looked genuinely happy, that part needed answers. She couldn't just walk away without knowing the whole story. Determined, she grabbed her phone and started searching. She typed, "William Parker," into the browser. Within seconds, a flood of results appeared. Photos of him at gala events, articles in business magazines, interviews on TV shows. It felt like diving into a completely different world from the simple man who had taken them on a picnic in the park. Every click confirmed it more. William really was one of the most successful businessmen in the state. Construction companies, hotels, luxury condos, all carrying William Parker's name. Sophia felt like she was reading about a stranger. How could that man, in a perfect suit, posing with celebrities, be the same one who laughed while lying on the grass with Max and Lily? She saved a few links to her phone, determined to confront him face to face. This time, he wouldn't get away with more lies. By late morning, Max woke up full of energy and hungry. "Good morning, Mommy," he said, hugging her. "Good morning, my love," she answered, trying to smile. As she made pancakes, Sophia listened to Max talk about his plans for the day. He wanted to go to the park, to the movies, to see the ducks. Everything he did lately seemed to revolve around the idea of having a full family with William and Lily, and that only made things more complicated. Sophia had to deal with this. She couldn't let Max's hopes grow, only to be crushed later. After breakfast, she sent William a message. "Can we talk? In person?" The reply came almost instantly. "Of course. Anytime, anywhere." They agreed to meet at the same park where they had the picnic, the place that still held a trace of that early innocence. Sophia arrived first. She picked a bench in the shade near the lake where the kids had laughed and played just days ago. She was nervous but focused. A few minutes later, William showed up, wearing simple jeans and a button-down shirt. No driver, no security. Just him, walking with his hands in his pockets, his shoulders slightly slouched. When he saw her, he walked faster, but kept a respectful distance. "Hi, Sophia," he said quietly. "Hi," she replied, crossing her arms. An uncomfortable silence hung in the air for a few seconds. Finally, Sophia took a deep breath and got straight to the point. "Why did you lie to me?" William ran a hand through his hair, clearly searching for the right words. "At first, I didn't even realize I was lying. I sat at the wrong table, you didn't know who I was, and for the first time in a long while, I felt normal." Sophia narrowed her eyes. "Normal?" "Yes," he continued sincerely. "People usually come to me because of status, money, what I can offer. But that night, you treated me like a regular person, and I wanted that feeling to last." Sophia bit her lower lip, trying to stay strong. "You had plenty of chances to tell the truth." "I know," William said, lowering his head. "But every time I thought about it, I got scared. Scared you'd leave. Scared I'd lose that feeling of belonging." She stayed silent, taking in his words. Part of her understood. Part of her wanted to scream. "And what else was a lie, William? Everything? Is your relationship with Lily fake too?" He quickly looked up. "No, never. Everything I felt for you all, for Max, it's real." Sophia felt a tear trying to fall but blinked it away. "You know what's worse than being lied to, William? It's watching my son get attached to you. Believe in you." "I love Max like he's my own," he said, voice shaking. "And I love you too, Sophia. I fell in love with you." The words hung in the air like a silent bomb. Sophia turned her face, feeling the weight of them. "I don't know if I can trust you again," she whispered. William took a step closer but respected the space she needed. "I don't expect you to trust me now, but let me show you who I am. No lies, no masks." Sophia kept looking at the lake, watching the distorted reflections in the water. She wanted to believe. She wanted to give him a chance. But it wasn't a decision she could make on the spot. "I need time," she finally said. William nodded. "Take all the time you need. I'll wait." She stood up, adjusted her purse on her shoulder, and walked away, feeling the weight of that conversation still pulsing in her chest. William stood there watching her leave, knowing that this time, winning her back would be much harder, but also much more real. As Sophia walked toward the parking lot, Max ran toward her from a nearby playground. Mom, I saw the new dad over there," he said excitedly, pointing. Sophia knelt down and hugged him tightly. "Sweetie, we need to take it slow with this, okay?" Max looked at her, confused. "But we're a family, right?" Sophia closed her eyes for a second. Maybe, she thought, the answer wasn't in her fear, but in what the heart of a child so pure already knew. Only time would tell. The following week passed strangely for Sophia. Time seemed to drag on, and every free moment was filled with confused thoughts about William. She knew who he was now. She knew about the empire, the money, the luxurious life, but what she didn't know was if she could trust the man who, deep down, she still missed. Max, on the other hand, couldn't stop talking about him. Every new drawing he made, every story he invented ended with the new dad saving the day. Sophia tried, in every way, to protect her son and herself from getting their hopes up again, only to face disappointment. It was on a Wednesday afternoon, while she was organizing papers at work, that she received a call from the school. "Mrs. Sophia? This is the secretary from Max's school." Her heart froze. "What happened?" she asked, dropping everything. "Max had a small accident in the playground. He fell and hit his head. We're taking him to the hospital just to be safe." Without thinking, Sophia ran out the door. When she arrived at the hospital, the world seemed like a blur. Running down the white corridors, she spotted Max sitting on a stretcher, with a bandage on his forehead and a sheepish look on his face. "My love," Sophia ran to him, hugging him gently. "I'm sorry, Mom," he whispered. "I just wanted to show my friends I was strong." Sophia held back her tears and hugged him even tighter. That's when she heard a familiar voice calling her. "Sophia." She turned and saw William running toward them, his face marked by concern. "I came as soon as I heard," he said, quickly approaching. Sophia, surprised, asked, "How did you find out?" William hesitated for just a second. "Lily heard you talking about the school the other day. When she saw the news in the parents' group, she insisted I come. I couldn't just stay still knowing Max was hurt." Sophia, despite all the confusion inside her, felt a flicker of gratitude. William looked at Max with tenderness. "Hey, champ, you sure scared everyone, huh?" Max gave a weak smile, but his eyes lit up. "New dad," he murmured. Sophia's heart squeezed. The doctors assured her that Max was fine. The cut was superficial, but for safety's sake, he would stay under observation for a few hours. Sophia sat by his stretcher, holding his hand. William stood beside her, seeming not to want to leave. The silence between them was heavy with all that was left unsaid. Sophia knew she needed to talk to William, and that she couldn't avoid it forever. When Max finally fell asleep, exhausted, Sophia turned to William. "Thank you for coming. I wouldn't have stayed away," he said softly. Sophia studied his face. He looked tired, worried, but also real. William sat in the chair next to her, letting out a sigh. "You know," he began, "I've spent the last few days trying to figure out how to win you back." Sophia kept her gaze fixed on her sleeping son without responding. "But I realize that trying to impress you or convince you of anything doesn't work. I can only be who I am. No masks." She slowly turned toward him. "And who are you, William?" He thought for a moment before answering. "A man who made mistakes trying to do the right thing. A man who has money, yes, but would give it all up to have something real with you and Max." Sophia felt the tears burning her eyes, but she held them back. "I don't need your money, William." "I know," he said softly, "and that's why I need you." She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to process everything. "Do you understand that for me, for Max? Trust is everything?" William nodded. "I understand, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn that trust back." Sophia stayed silent for a long time, only hearing the soft sound of Max's breathing. Finally she spoke. "Then start by being honest. Completely honest. No hiding anything, no more stories." William straightened up in his chair. "It's okay. Ask whatever you want. I promise I won't lie." She looked directly into his eyes. "Why would a man like you, with everything you have, want to pretend to be poor?" William smiled sadly. "Because when you have everything, you realize that what's missing the most in your life is something money can't buy." Sophia felt the weight of those words, and for the first time in days, something inside her, something very small but powerful, began to soften. Night fell, and the hospital started to empty out. The doctors released Max, and Sophia got ready to take him home. William insisted on walking with them to the car. As they walked through the quiet parking lot, Sophia felt Max holding her hand on one side, and William's hand on the other. For a brief moment, they seemed like a family. When they reached the car, Sophia settled Max in the back seat. William looked at her, hesitant. "Can I see you tomorrow?" he asked. Sophia hesitated for a second. Then she simply nodded. William smiled, relieved, and gently tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. "Good night, Sophia." "Good night, champ," he said, winking at Max. As William walked away through the parking lot, Sophia felt something strange fill her chest. Hope, fragile, scary, but alive. That night, after Max had fallen asleep at home, Sophia sat on the porch, looking up at the starry sky. William Parker was a man full of flaws. A man who had lied out of fear, but he was also a man who had been there when she needed him most, who had truly cared, who hadn't run away in the tough moments. Sophia knew that trusting again would be a risk, but she also knew that maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she was willing to take a small step forward. In his apartment, William Parker sat in his vast, empty living room, holding a small picture that Lily had drawn. A simple house, 2 smiling children, a man and a woman holding hands. Not an empire. Not mansions, just a family. And for the first time in years, William knew exactly what he wanted for his life. And he wouldn't rest until he won Sophia back. The morning sun peeked shyly through the bedroom window, and Sophia watched Max sleeping peacefully, cuddled with his teddy bear. It was strange how, even after the scare at the hospital, he seemed completely safe, protected. Part of her knew that this was because of William's presence, and that was the dilemma that consumed her the most. She wanted to trust. She wanted to believe that his intentions were pure. But years of broken promises and disappointments had taught her that love, on its own, wasn't always enough. Still, she had promised herself. She would listen to William. She would give space, but without rushing. Max, upon waking, went straight to the point. "Mom, are we going to see the new daddy today?" Sophia smiled, brushing his messy hair. "Yes, we're going today. But no promises, okay?" Max nodded, satisfied just by the idea. On the other side of town, William adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, but immediately took it off. He wanted to look approachable, not like a distant executive. He opted for a simple t-shirt and dark jeans. He wanted to show Sophia that, away from suits and events, he was just an ordinary man, a man who wanted to be part of her life. Lily, excited, helped him pack small gifts, children's books that she and Max could read together. "It's gonna work, Dad," said Lily, confidently. William smiled. "I hope so, little one. I hope so." The meeting place was the same park as before, chosen by Max and Lily. Simple, familiar, no signs of luxury. When Sophia and Max arrived, William and Lily were already there, setting up a small makeshift picnic tent. "Hi," said William with a sincere smile. Sophia nodded in response while Max ran to hug Lily. "I brought some books," said William, showing the colorful covers. Max grabbed one, excited. As the children kept busy, William offered Sophia a coffee from a thermos. "Made by me, no secrets, I promise," he joked. She took the cup with a half smile. They sat side by side on the grass, but there was still a safe distance between them. "Sophia," William started, "I know words alone aren't enough. So, I want to do something more. Show you, not just tell you." She looked at him cautiously. "What exactly do you want to show?" William took a deep breath. "I want to show that I'm capable of living without all the luxury, that what matters to me isn't the things, but the people. You, Max, Lily." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "And how do you plan to do that?" "I'm proposing a challenge," he said with a mischievous smile. "1 week living like an ordinary person. No drivers, no fancy restaurants, no credit cards, just me trying to be the man you deserve." Sophia studied him for a few moments. The idea seemed crazy, but also intriguing. "And where will you live during this week?" she asked. "In my old apartment. Before I got rich, I lived in a simple place downtown. I still keep it rented. I'll stay there for the week." Sophia crossed her arms. "And what's the point of this exactly?" William leaned forward, looking her in the eye. "To show that I can live the life that you and Max live, that I can be a part of your world. No masks." She thought for a long moment. It was absurd, it was risky, but it was also a gesture she never expected from someone like William Parker. 1 week, she said, raising one finger. "No tricks, no excuses." 1 week, he confirmed. "Okay," Sophia said, surprised by her own words. "You've got your chance." Max, noticing something was happening, ran over to them. "What's going on?" Sophia smiled and messed up her son's hair. "Your new dad is going to do a challenge." Max's eyes widened. "Cool. Is it going to be like a superhero thing?" William laughed. "Something like that." The next day, William moved temporarily into the small apartment. It was a modest place, an open living room and kitchen, 1 bedroom, and a tiny bathroom. No security, no butlers, no heated pool. On the first day, he faced the challenge of cooking something simple. The pancakes came out burnt, the coffee was watered down, and the kitchen looked like a battlefield. But strangely, William felt happy. He sent a photo of the pancakes to Sophia and Max, writing, "First attempt, disaster, but I'm alive." Max replied with laughing emojis, and Sophia, though hesitant, sent a brief, "Keep trying." It was a start. In the following days, William threw himself into learning the ordinary life. He shopped at the corner market, did laundry at the public laundromat, took the bus to get around. He sent messages to Sophia, telling her little stories, the lady who taught him to use the washing machine, the neighbor's dog who always followed him, the day he forgot his umbrella and got soaked. Sophia read it all in silence, not responding much. But inside, something was starting to change. On the 5th day, William invited her to dinner at the apartment. "It won't be anything fancy," he promised. She hesitated but eventually agreed. She arrived with Max in the early evening and found William in an apron, finishing up a simple pasta with tomato sauce. The smell was delicious, despite the mess. "Welcome to my 1-star restaurant," he joked. During dinner, the kids laughed, made a mess, and Sophia, against her will, enjoyed herself too. William burnt the garlic bread, spilled juice on the tablecloth, tripped over the chair, and never seemed so human. So real. After dinner, Max and Lily went to watch an old cartoon on the small TV. Sophia and William stayed on the cramped porch, looking at the lit-up city. "You know," William said, breaking the silence, "I've never felt so alive as I have this week." Sophia glanced at him sideways. "Not even when you signed million-dollar contracts? Especially in those moments," he replied, laughing. She smiled too, but her smile was full of doubts. William moved closer, hesitantly. "I know I haven't earned your trust back yet, but I want to keep trying, not for pride, not for the challenge, but because I really love you." Sophia turned to face him. "Loving is easy, William. The hard part is building a life together." "Then let's build it," he said seriously. "One day at a time." She sighed. "It's still too soon." "I know," he replied, gently taking her hand, "but I'm willing to wait as long as it takes." Sophia looked at his hand holding hers, and for the first time since everything started, she didn't feel fear. She felt hope. Fragile, yes, but real. That night, as she tucked Max into bed, he asked, "Mom, are we a real family now?" Sophia smiled, kissing his forehead. "We're building, my love, one step at a time." Max smiled and closed his eyes, falling asleep quickly, and Sophia stayed there, gently stroking his hair, feeling deep in her heart that maybe, just maybe, true love was knocking at the door. The weekend arrived, bringing a cool breeze that scattered golden leaves across the park. It was as if autumn had decided to paint the whole city in shades of hope and renewal. And in Sophia's heart, the seed of something new was beginning to sprout. William was nearing the end of the challenge he had set for himself. Living a week simply, without luxuries, without help, facing the routine of someone who didn't have fortunes to make life easier. And he had kept up with each day, sending small proofs of it to Sophia, pictures, short videos, messages, never asking for anything in return, just showing, day by day, that he was willing to change. Sophia watched from a distance, not rushing to make any judgments. But with every gesture, every spontaneous display, it was becoming harder to maintain the wall she had built around her heart. Now, on the 9th day since it all began, William invited her to a different kind of outing. Without giving details, he just asked her to trust him. She hesitated but agreed. Max, of course, was thrilled. "It's a surprise adventure, Mom," he yelled, running around the house. Sophia, still suspicious, allowed herself to smile. On Saturday afternoon, Sophia and Max met William and Lily in front of the old apartment. William was dressed in jeans and a simple t-shirt, his hair messy from the wind, but there was a sparkle in his eyes that she hadn't seen in a long time. "Ready for the adventure?" he asked. Max and Lily screamed a loud "Yes!" that made a few neighbors look out their windows. Sophia, more composed, crossed her arms. "Can I at least know where we're going?" William smiled. "Trust, remember?" She huffed but got into the modest car William had rented for the week. During the drive, the kids had fun telling made-up stories and planning picnics and space missions. Sophia, in the front seat, occasionally glanced at William. He seemed so at ease in this simplicity that it was hard to imagine him in the luxurious halls where he had been photographed. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something like peace. After 40 minutes, the car turned onto a dirt road leading to a clearing. And that's when Sophia understood. Before them, surrounded by trees, was a small wooden house. Simple, cozy, with large windows and a messy garden full of wildflowers. Max and Lily jumped out of the car, excitedly exploring the place. Sophia stayed still, staring at William. "What is this?" He took a deep breath. "It's the surprise." She furrowed her brow. "William, if this is another extravagant stunt—" "It's not," he interrupted. "This house belonged to my grandparents. Before any money, before any business, this is where I spent my summers, eating buttered bread and running barefoot through the grass." Sophia looked at the house again, seeing it with new eyes. "But why bring us here?" William stepped closer, keeping his voice low. "Because it's here where I remember who I really am, and I wanted to share that with you." Sophia felt a lump form in her throat. Max ran over holding a crushed flower. "Mom, I found a flower for you." She knelt down to take the flower, and for a moment, her eyes filled with tears. William watched her silently. It was in that simple gesture that the answer he had been searching for began to form. They spent the afternoon exploring the property. The kids played in the grass, built an improvised fort with branches and sheets, ran until they were tired. William and Sophia sat on the porch watching the scene. "Why did you keep this place?" she asked, curious. "Because, even when everything around me got too big, I needed to remember where I came from. The simple life, what really matters." Sophia studied him in silence. He didn't need to talk about love, promises, or oaths. He was showing it. And that said so much more. At night, after a simple dinner of sandwiches and boxed juice, William lit a fire outside. The kids roasted marshmallows, told ghost stories, and laughed until their bellies hurt. Sophia, sitting next to William, surrounded by the warm light of the fire, felt strangely at home. "Sophia," he said after a long moment of silence, "I know I can't change what I did, or erase what I hid, but I can promise that from now on, everything you see will be the truth." She looked at him. The firelight reflected in his eyes, illuminating a raw sincerity that she hadn't seen in anyone for a long time. William continued, "I don't want you to accept the millionaire, or the businessman. I want you to accept the man who's here, now. No titles, no masks." Sophia took a deep breath. She knew that trusting again was a leap of faith. But maybe, at that moment, it was worth jumping. Before she could respond, Max pulled on her hand. "Mom, are we sleeping here tonight?" Sophia looked at William. He smiled. "If you want, the house is yours." Sophia smiled too. "I think it would be fun." The kids ran inside the house, full of excitement. That night, under a starry sky and surrounded by innocent laughter, Sophia allowed herself, for the first time in a long while, to simply believe. Sunday morning arrived with the smell of wet earth and fresh bread baking. William had woken up early, trying to make pancakes, this time without burning them. Sophia came downstairs, drawn by the scent and the sound of the kids playing in the kitchen. She found William all messy with the batter but laughing. "Good morning," he said, smiling when he saw her. "Good morning," she replied, feeling an unexpected wave of happiness. They had breakfast on the porch, laughing at the misshaped pancakes and the mixed-up juices made by the kids. It was simple. It was imperfect. It was perfect. Before they left, William asked Sophia to take one last walk around the property. They walked side by side, their shoulders almost touching. "I wanted to show you something," he said, stopping near a tall tree. Carved into the thick trunk were the words, "Family is everything." Sophia ran her hand over the carved letters. "My grandfather wrote that," William explained. "He used to say that, in the end, what matters are the people. The love we build." Sophia felt tears welling up. William gently held her hand. "I want to build that with you." She looked at him, and this time there was no doubt in her heart. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about status, it was about feeling loved, welcomed, respected. Sophia smiled, and William understood everything, without a single word needing to be said. They hugged beneath the old tree as the laughter of Max and Lily echoed through the clearing. The drive home was peaceful. Max fell asleep in the back seat, hugging a new book William had bought on the way. Sophia looked at William driving, feeling strangely safe. She knew there would still be obstacles, that the road wouldn't be perfect. But for the first time, she was willing to walk it by his side, with all its imperfections. The next days seemed to revolve around a new normal that Sophia never imagined she'd have. Quiet messages, brief encounters, simple outings with the kids. It was as though, little by little, she and William were learning to rediscover what it meant to build something real. But Sophia knew that life wasn't just about sweet moments. She had learned, the hard way, that the true test of a relationship came with time, and especially with challenges. It was on a Friday afternoon that the first big challenge came. Sophia was at home, organizing some papers when Max ran into the room, waving a piece of paper. "Mom, there's a presentation at school. I want you and the new dad to come watch." Sophia took the invitation from his hands and read it. A semester-ending play, with parents invited as special guests. She smiled at Max, brushing his hair. "Of course we'll go, sweetheart." Max jumped for joy, already planning how he wanted William to see him on stage. But what Sophia didn't know was that same weekend, William had an unavoidable commitment, a National Entrepreneurship Award ceremony. A ceremony broadcast live across the country, a ceremony that required his presence. And now, he would have to choose. Sophia only found out about the ceremony when she received a call from William's sister, Sarah. "Are you going to the award ceremony with William?" she asked casually. Surprised, Sophia replied, "Award ceremony?" Sarah laughed from the other end of the line. "Oh, of course. He must have forgotten to mention it. It's tomorrow night. Really important. All the investors will be there. He's receiving the top award." Sophia hung up the phone with a tight feeling in her chest. It was inevitable. William would have to choose between the public image and the private life he was trying to build. She didn't want to put pressure on him. She didn't want to make demands. But she knew that, for Max, that day was important. And for her, what William decided would be the ultimate proof of what really mattered. On Saturday morning, Sophia and William met at the local cafe, where the kids were drawing on napkins while they talked. Sophia took the moment to ask, "Is there something you need to tell me?" William, realizing what she meant, sighed, "Yes, about tonight." She waited. "I have an award ceremony. It's a big deal. Something they've been planning for months." Sophia nodded slowly. "And?" William looked her in the eyes. "And I want to be at Max's presentation." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" He smiled. "I am. I've already told my team I won't be at the ceremony. They didn't understand, of course. Some were upset. But I know what matters most to me." Sophia felt something warm spread inside her. It was exactly what she needed to see. Not words. Actions. That night, Max's small school was decorated with colorful poster boards and paper stars scattered across the ceiling. Moms and dads crowded the makeshift auditorium, and Sophia held William's hand tightly, while Max backstage peeked out excitedly. When his name was called, Max ran onto the stage wearing a talking tree costume, causing laughter and applause. William couldn't take his eyes off him. He smiled as if it was the most important event in the world. And to Sophia, that said everything. As Max recited his lines, Sophia noticed that William was recording everything on his phone, with the proudest expression she had ever seen. It was real. He was there, body and soul. After the performance, Max ran to the arms of Sophia and William. "Did you see? Did I do good?" "It was amazing, champ," said William, lifting him up in the air, making him laugh. Sophia looked at that scene, and for the first time, she felt that maybe the future she'd always dreamed of wasn't so impossible. Let's make a joke for those who only read the comments. Type coffee in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now let's continue with the story. But as life loves to prove, the final test was yet to come. 2 days later, while Sophia was working in her office, she received an envelope on her desk. It was from William. Inside, there were 2 plane tickets and a letter. "Sophia, I don't want you to think I need luxuries to be happy. But I want to share what I have in a simple and honest way with you and Max. I want to show you a bit of my world without masks. I want to travel with you. No pressure, no obligations, just us, William." Sophia held the tickets, her heart racing. It was a short trip to a farm in another state, a rustic place known for trails, lakes, and horseback riding. No big hotels, no fancy events. It was an invitation to start over. The next night, William went to Sophia's house to talk in person. Max was thrilled. "We're going to travel, Mom. We're going to travel." Sophia asked Max to give them a little privacy, and he ran to his room. In the living room, under the soft light of the lamp, William looked at Sophia. "If you don't want to go, I'll understand, but I really want to create new memories with you." Sophia took a deep breath. So many doubts, so many fears, but also so many possibilities. "What if it goes wrong?" she asked, unable to hide her fear. William moved closer and took her hands. "Then we learn. Together." Sophia looked into his eyes, and she saw the truth. No masks, no games, just a man willing to try, just like her. The next morning, the bags were packed. Max could hardly contain his excitement, talking non-stop in the back seat. Sophia looked out the car window, trying to hold back the whirlwind of emotions inside her. William drove calmly, glancing lovingly at her from time to time. The road stretched ahead of them, endless. And for the first time in a long time, Sophia felt that maybe, just maybe, she was heading in the right direction. There were no guarantees, no empty promises, just choices. And in that moment she was choosing to believe, choosing to love, one day at a time. And as the car continued down the dusty road under the summer blue sky, Sophia realized the true wealth of life isn't in what you have. It's in who you choose to have by your side. And looking at William, Max, and Lily, she knew she had made the right choice. even without knowing what the future held. The trip to the farm was exactly as William had promised: simple, fun, and full of little adventures. Sophia, Max, Lily, and William spent the days exploring trails, fishing in calm lakes, and trying to ride stubborn horses that seemed to know they had tourists on them. At every moment, Sophia felt the bond between them growing stronger. No luxury, no masks, no pretense, just laughter, stumbles, and many real moments. Max and Lily became almost inseparable, creating their own games and sharing secrets that only children know how to keep. And every night, when they sat by the makeshift campfire to tell stories under the stars, Sophia felt a certainty growing inside her. Maybe, this time, it would be different. Maybe with William, she could have everything she'd always dreamed of. The last day of the trip came too quickly. While William helped the kids pack their bags, Sophia took the chance to walk alone to the lake. The water mirrored the clear sky, and she sat by the edge, thinking about everything she had lived through in the last few weeks. It was then that her phone vibrated. She almost ignored it, but on impulse, she checked it. The number was familiar and unwelcome. It was Lucas, Max's biological father, the man who had disappeared from their lives years ago, only to show up at the most inconvenient moments. Reluctantly, Sophia answered. "Sophia," said the voice on the other end with a false softness. "I finally found you." She stayed silent. "I heard you're seeing someone new, a guy named William Parker, right?" Sophia closed her eyes, feeling the tension rise. "What do you want, Lucas?" "I want to see my son." Sophia gripped her phone tightly. "After all these years, you never called, never reached out, and now, suddenly, you want to show up?" His laugh was dry. "Things change. I've changed." Sophia didn't respond. She knew Lucas never changed. He only showed up when he saw an opportunity. And now, with William in the picture, a rich, influential man, Lucas saw a chance to take advantage. "I'm coming back to town, and you're going to let me see Max. If not, I'll file a lawsuit." Sophia felt her stomach turn. She knew that, despite his past neglect, Lucas still had legal rights he had never bothered to exercise until now. "It's not that simple," she said firmly. "It better be simple, Sophia, or it'll be worse for everyone," he threatened before hanging up. Sophia stood still, staring at the lake. The peace she had felt until then seemed to evaporate. The past had come back to haunt her, and now she'd have to face the shadow she'd always feared. When she returned to the farm, William immediately noticed something was wrong. "Sophia?" he asked, concerned, seeing the lost look on her face. She hesitated, but knew she couldn't hide it. She told him about the call, about Lucas, about the threat. William listened in silence without interrupting. When she finished, he simply took her hands. "We'll face this, together." Sophia felt tears burning in her eyes. For years, she'd faced everything alone. Now, someone was saying we. And she wanted to believe it. She needed to believe it. Back in the city, Sophia tried to maintain normalcy. She kept working, taking care of Max, answering messages from William, who was more present than ever. But deep down, anxiety gnawed at her days. She knew Lucas would show up. It was just a matter of time. And he didn't disappoint. A week later, Sophia received the surprise visit. She was leaving work when she saw Lucas leaning against her car, smiling as if they had seen each other the day before. "Hey, Soph," he said, using the nickname she hated. She took a deep breath. "What do you want, Lucas?" "I've already said. I want to see my son. I have the right." Sophia crossed her arms. "You had years for that." "I wasn't ready," he replied with the same old excuse. "But now I am, and I have the money to offer him a better life." Sophia scoffed. "You don't even know his favorite color." Lucas smiled. "Give me a chance to find out." Sophia felt anger bubbling inside her. "You're not here for Max. You're here for something else." "Maybe," he said shamelessly, "but that doesn't change the fact that I'm his father. And if you don't let me see him, the judge might make you." She turned her back, ignoring Lucas's calls, but she knew the problem was far from over. That night, Sophia told William everything. He was furious but tried to stay calm. "Do you want me to take care of this?" he asked. Sophia smiled sadly. "No, this battle is mine." "Then I'll fight by your side," he said without hesitation, and she knew he meant it. In the following days, Sophia sought out a family law attorney. She explained the whole situation, presented evidence of Lucas's abandonment, old messages, and his history of absence. The lawyer was clear. "You have a strong case, but you need to prepare. If he wants, he can make things really complicated." Sophia nodded. She was ready. For the first time, she wouldn't run. What she didn't expect was what William would do next. Without telling her, he scheduled a meeting with Lucas at a public cafe, where everyone could see. Witnesses, cameras, security. Sophia only found out because she received a message from William. "I'm handling this. Trust me." At first, she was furious. She didn't want William getting involved in something so personal. But out of curiosity and concern, she went to the cafe, staying hidden across the street. What she saw surprised her. William sat with Lucas, direct and to the point. "I know why you're here," William said. Lucas shrugged. "I want to see my son. I have the right." William leaned forward, looking him in the eyes. "Right? You abandoned Max. You don't even know who he is, and now you want to show up because you see an opportunity." Lucas laughed, mocking him. "Money is power, William. You should know that." William stayed calm. "I know, but I also know one more thing. Character can't be bought." Lucas became serious. William continued. "You want money? You're not getting it. You want to use Max as leverage? It's not going to work." He pulled an envelope from his briefcase. "Here are documents showing all your absences, your debts, your failures as a father. If you want to go down this road, you'll lose everything in court, including any rights you think you still have." Lucas turned pale. William stood up. "If you want to do the right thing, give up custody, sign away your rights, and let Max have the life he deserves, we can talk." Lucas stayed silent. William finished. "It's your choice. But know this, we're going to protect Max with everything we've got." Without waiting for a response, William left the cafe. On the other side of the street, Sophia wiped away a tear she didn't even know had fallen. Never in her life had anyone fought for her like that. That night, William showed up at her door. He didn't say a word. He just opened his arms. And Sophia ran into them. They embraced tightly, as if the whole world could collapse and they would stand strong. A few days later, Lucas sent a short message. "I signed the papers. Max is all yours." Sophia showed the message to William, tears in her eyes. "You did this for me," she said. William shook his head. "I did this for us." Sophia hugged him, and in that embrace she knew the battle had been won. But the real victory was something else. The victory of having found someone willing to stay, to fight, to build. The victory of finally having a real family. And as Max and Lily ran around the house, laughing and shouting, Sophia and William stayed in the kitchen, preparing a simple dinner. No fancy dinners, no pomp, just love. Simple. Real. True. And they knew the best was yet to come. The days that followed Lucas signing the papers were filled with relief and quiet celebration for Sophia. For the first time in years, she felt like the ground under her feet was solid, that the future, though still uncertain, was a place she could explore without fear. Max seemed like a different boy, lighter, happier. He somehow knew, in a way that only kids know, that something important had changed. Lily, always cheerful, whispered endless secrets with Max, glancing at Sophia and William with eyes full of mystery. Sophia knew something was in the air, an expectation. But she pretended not to notice. She let herself be carried away by the new routine, savoring each moment of normalcy. Impromptu dinners, afternoons in the park, lazy Sunday mornings. And it was in this smooth rhythm that William planned something much bigger than anything she could imagine. On the morning of a sunny Saturday, William showed up at Sophia's door with a mischievous grin. "Get ready, we're going out," he said. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Can I at least know where?" "It's a surprise," he replied, winking. Max and Lily were already in the living room, bursting with excitement, holding backpacks that looked like they were about to explode from how full they were. "It's the best surprise ever, Mom," Max assured her. Sophia had no choice but to trust him. She put on comfortable clothes, tied her hair in a ponytail, and followed William and the kids to the car. During the drive, there were few clues. Max and Lily whispered to each other, looking at Sophia with knowing glances, while William drove with a calm expression. After about an hour, they arrived at a place Sophia recognized immediately. The park. The same one where it all started, where William had mistakenly sat at the wrong table, where Max and Lily had conspired to form a new family. Sophia smiled, emotional, even before getting out of the car. She felt, deep down, that this day would be different, special. They walked to a more secluded area of the park, where tall trees provided a welcoming shade and the city's noise seemed far away. There, on the soft grass, was a small setup, a simple arch made of wildflowers, flanked by 2 rows of makeshift benches covered with white fabric. It was like a ceremony, but handmade, filled with love. Sophia stopped, looking around, speechless. "William, what is this?" He turned to her, holding her hands in his. "Sophia Evans, I made a lot of mistakes to get here, but every mistake brought me to you. Every stumble taught me to appreciate what's real." Sophia felt her eyes fill with tears. William kneeled on the grass, pulling a small box from his pocket. Max and Lily ran to his side, holding small pillows made from fabric scraps. One of them held a simple, yet beautiful ring, with a soft glow that seemed to capture all the light of the day. "I don't want a perfect fairy tale. I want our story, with all its imperfections, all its struggles, and all its joys." He took a deep breath, and Sophia saw both fear and hope in his eyes. "Will you marry me, Sophia? Not to live in a castle, but to build a home. Not to parade through the elite, but to walk hand in hand in the park every Sunday forever." Silence fell like a soft veil over them. Sophia didn't need to think. She didn't need to weigh the pros and cons. The answer was already beating in every pulse of her heart. She dropped to her knees in front of him, laughing through her tears. "Yes," she said, her voice choked. "Yes, William? 1,000 times yes." Max and Lily screamed and ran around them, throwing flower petals they had hidden in their backpacks. William slipped the ring onto her finger, and Sophia felt that something inside her, something that had been broken for so long, finally clicked into place. The celebration was as simple as the proposal. They brought a picnic basket filled with sandwiches, juices, and a small cake bought from the corner bakery. They laughed, played, took blurry pictures with their phones. And as the sun began to set, painting the sky in golden and pink hues, William pulled Sophia close to dance to the sound of the children's laughter. There was no music. There was no luxury. Just the 2 of them, moving slowly on the grass, rocked by the silent promise that they would always be there for each other. Forever. In the following months, life began to adjust like a puzzle piece finally clicked into place. William sold part of the business, delegated tasks, and slowed down the frantic pace of his career. He chose to prioritize the family he was now building. They moved into a modest house on the outskirts of town, where Max and Lily could run freely, plant trees in the backyard, and make up stories on the swing hanging from the oldest tree. The house wasn't big, it wasn't luxurious, but it was filled with laughter, mess, and love. Enough to be perfect. On the day of their official wedding, only a few guests were invited. Close friends, family, and of course the kids, who had important roles in the ceremony. Lily was the most excited maid of honor ever, and Max, the mini best man, almost burst with pride as he handed over the rings. Sophia wore a simple dress made of light fabric that swayed with the gentle breeze. William wore a suit he had chosen himself. No stylists, no flashy labels. When Sophia walked down the makeshift aisle in the small garden, with Max holding her hand, she saw everything she needed in William's eyes. There were no doubts. There were no fears. Just love. Pure and genuine. When they exchanged vows, Sophia said, "I promise to love your imperfections as much as your qualities. I promise to laugh at our mistakes and celebrate every little victory. I promise to walk beside you, even on the tough roads. And above all, I promise to choose you every day, without masks, without doubts, without fear." William, his eyes filled with tears, replied, "I promise to love you not for what you make me feel, but for who you are. I promise to protect our family with all that I am. I promise to be your safe harbor and your greatest adventure." And then, under a clear sky and with the kids laughing behind them, they sealed their commitment with a kiss full of promises and futures. That night, now married, Sophia and William sat on the porch of their new home. The kids were asleep, exhausted from all the playing. The breeze carried the smell of wet earth and night flowers. Sophia rested her head on William's shoulder, closing her eyes. "You know," she said, smiling, "if someone had told me everything we'd lived through since that first dinner mistake, I would have laughed." William laughed too, kissing the top of her head. "And what if I had sat at the right table?" he asked. Sophia thought for a moment. "I think fate would have found a way to bring us together anyway." He squeezed her hand, and I would have sat at the wrong table again, just to find you." They laughed together, and under the starry sky they knew sitting at the wrong table had been the best mistake of their lives. And now, making mistakes and getting it right together would be part of the wonderful adventure they had chosen to live forever. What did you think of Sophia and William's story? Leave your opinion in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to follow all our stories. And don't forget to check out more touching stories by clicking here on the final screen.